Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Vision Pros Live. My name is Fletcher Ellington. I'm your host and coach. Today on the show, we're talking with another man who's got a vision. We're going to dive into that vision. But first, welcome to the show, Mike LaVista. How you doing?
Fletcher, great to meet you. Thanks for getting on with me this morning. Good to meet you.
Yeah, right on, man. You are with Caxi, which is a software and AI consultancy. Before we get into that, I always like to start off with the program with something that's going well. I'm going to ask you, what's a win in your life, professionally or personally? The reason I do this is there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's a lot of suffering going on. And I like to practice directing our focus to something that feels good once in a while. So lay it on us. What do you got?
No, that's great. I love you. If you got to start up so you can deliver other stuff later. So I think what's going well for us is and maybe other people experience this, especially like in the consulting agency world. People weren't making decisions there for about 8 months, a year. Just everything we had was getting pushed back and pushed back. And I don't know what it is. I'm not a global economist or anything like that. So I feel like in the last 4 to 6 weeks, we've had more people say yes to moving forward than like the prior 6 months. And
Mm-hmm.
so it feels like some momentum is picking up. And I mean, obviously, we'll get into it, but being in AI and software means that there's at least a lot of activity and conversation about it. And there's maybe nervousness about what it'll be and how to move forward. But it seems like people are finally decided, listen, it's time to jump in. We got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with that. I definitely feel I hear both sides of the conversation
Mm.
and everything in between, but I think that's accurate. Like there's a sense of some momentum creating and more embracing, right?
Yeah.
Good, good, good. So tell us a little bit about what Caxi does, because when we talk about software, we talk about AI, boy, that might mean something completely different to every person you talk
Sure.
to.
So I've got kind of a crazy little mission, which discovered by accident when I was looking at like what we've been able to accomplish as a company with some of our clients. And what I realized is that we've been around creating 700 millionaires. So 7 space 100 millionaires. And I got this crazy idea, let's go for 25. So I got a mission to find, what is that, 18 more, where we're taking a company that's growing and just like pour some kerosene on the fire and just really like, let's go do something amazing. And there's a book and an idea out there that 10x is easier than 2x. And the idea behind it, kind of to summarize, is if you want to 2x your business, I think really you work harder, maybe later you add an extra shift, whatever. But if you're going to 10x, you got to do something totally different, totally new. And that's really where our company comes in, and where our specialty is that we're really good at coming into a company and figuring like where are you missing the mark on just how you're operating, using software, not using software, and what would happen if you were to inject, an AI sort of thinking, creative mindset into that business. What would happen? And a lot of times we start with low hanging fruit that amounts to that 2x idea, which is like, we can do this little part of the business better and faster. Maybe we can get invoices out faster, we can get quotes out faster, we can do pricing better, etc. But it's not until you really like think of like a new way of operating. So sometimes that's, it's a digital product. You make a company that isn't a digital company, a software company, and all of a sudden when they're looking at an exit, instead of looking at 6 or 8 times EBITDA, they're looking at 20 or 22 times EBITDA. It's a different equation. So that's kind of where we really like to plug in. We want to help you go faster. We're looking for people that are already winning and they want to win more.
Got it. Yeah, thanks. That's very clear. And to your point, yeah, that first getting, doubling, tripling, yeah, that takes a lot of effort, and it all takes effort. I'm not saying that, but I think what we've seen demonstrated is what you've just spoken to with many of these big companies, Apple, Nvidia,
Mm-hmm.
all these, where they were wildly successful, but to reach the $1 trillion mark seemed so far out there. And then when they did it, that second trillion and third trillion, and like I think Nvidia has hit 4 trillion or
Yeah.
close to. I mean, that's like unheard of. And I mean, I can't even comprehend what that means, but that does give credit to exactly what you just talked about, right?
Yeah, it is funny because I feel like I remember just getting on Nvidia for a second. I remember when they hit whatever that $1 trillion mark was, and I remember thinking to myself, Like there aren't too many companies like that. So surely how much higher could it possibly go? And luckily I held because I think it's doubled since then. Like I think it was under 100 earlier this year in that earlier crash, and now it's at 185 or something. Like
Yeah.
it's bananas what's going to that market. And we're not, I'm not a stock analyst guy, but like, is it overvalued is not for me to say, but like what it says is the vector that we're going in is that's the future. And it's funny, we've had a couple of comments on some of our videos lately where it's like people are nervous about AI, and it's like, what am I supposed to do about it? And I think it's in a way it's too late to be nervous, because if you don't do anything, someone else is going to blow your doors off. And if you, I always like to think about, if you were to start your business today, how different would it be? It'd probably be AI native. It'd be like technology native. And just because you're 10 or 20 years old isn't an excuse. Like you have to find a way to innovate, or someone else is going to find a way to do it better.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, the conversation about, well, gosh, should we embrace AI? Should we not? No, no, no. We're way past that.
Yeah.
And most all of us have been and are interacting with AI on some level, and we've
Yeah.
been doing so for many, many, many years. We just didn't realize it.
Right. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. It's been around. And honestly, like in our space, it's almost like, we started with AI and machine learning, 7, 8 years ago. And a lot of the stuff has been around. It just wasn't at scale. So it's not exactly new. And, to split a hair, like, the LLMs out there like ChatGPT and Claude and stuff like that, that's not all AI has to offer, but it's become so useful to everybody that that's where we're focusing. But you're right. It's too late to stop the train, I think.
Yeah. And so for those people who are listening to this conversation and might be thinking like, well, I don't know. I heard a quote the other day, and I think it's very applicable for this conversation. Instead of resisting and hemming and hawing, I invite you to invite the friction,
Mm,
meaning embrace this idea, and because it is here, so embrace it and see how can I harness this, and where can I how can I harness it and have it serve my life or
yeah.
serve my business, right? And is that kind of some of the work that you all do with businesses?
It's funny. So you hit on a code word for us, which is friction. And in a way, what we look for in a business is where is the friction happening, and find a way to blast through it. Because
Hmm.
if you think about like where friction is in like your everyday life, it's where you have gains. Like if you're lifting weights, like the heavier weights are where you get the gains. If you're practicing an instrument, it's when it's uncomfortable, you don't know what you're doing. That's where you get the gains. So you really have to embrace that, or you're basically you've given up and you've said, I'm just going to do the same thing over and over again and hope I get different results.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so invite that friction, learn from it, move
Yeah.
through it, right? And then there's going to be the next level of friction. So if somebody's listening to us right now, Mike, and they're like, well, yeah, I mean, I've got a company, it's small, I don't know, could this benefit me? I mean, what size companies do y'all work with, and how does a company know when they're ready to begin to implement some sort of AI
Yeah.
technology?
So I would say I'll answer those in reverse. The Really anyone can jump in, and likely probably has. So no matter what your scale is, I hope you've played around with a ChatGPT or a Gemini or a Claude or something, and you've tried writing an email or responding to an RFP or all that kind of stuff. I think where we come in is this idea we've come up with about operationalizing AI. And so when you think about terrific. You have a chat bot you've created, and you're working with by yourself, right? But as soon as you need to roll that out to a company of 2 or 500 or 1,000 people, all of a sudden, like the software things that we've been good at, for 20 plus years come into play. Like, well, how do I make it secure? And how do we deal with storage? And how do we make sure that you can log in? And how do we make sure that when someone leaves the company, they can't get back? All that sort of software process stuff becomes like how you operationalize your idea that maybe you played with an AI. And so for us, that means we're probably working with companies 50 million and up. But this again, not to say you shouldn't work with it. I think you can have a lot of success at any scale. Really, it's more about you might need help. For example, if you're not a company that does software, you will definitely need help building out a program that makes into your entire company, or you will almost certainly get hacked, or it will break, or something, like all the bad consequences that happen when software is at scale.
Got it. Okay. And a question about pricing and accessibility price wise, because I have no idea about this. I told you I was
Sure.
going to ask a lot of elementary questions. Like for the average, let's say, company of 20 to 50 people, small business.
Yeah.
What is there? Is there an accessible AI software package that can help them? That, I mean, I don't even know what pricing is for these types of things. I mean, I use Chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
And I just use the free version because it's sufficient for me. Like, I don't even have a clue as to what the pricing is for these types of things. Can you kind of clue me in on some of that?
Yeah, sure. So I think I like to look at it from maybe the other side of the telescope, which is to say, what's the size of the problem you're trying to fix? So if you were to walk into, a car dealer and be like, oh, how much are the cars? They're definitely gonna be, what are you trying to get into? Or is this, are you a Cadillac guy? Are you a Chevy guy? Are you a used, Chevy, whatever. So I like to think about, like, for example, the ROI on ChatGPT is close to infinity, right? Because if you're
Yeah,
if you're not spending a dime on it, then it is infinity. And if
yeah.
you're spending the $20, you got a little extra firepower that you're like, this is actually kind of nice to have it, a little more, trying to use like the buzzwords, but like more tokens, more context, it'll give you better results. So when we work on a problem, what we're looking for, and I think this is what you want in any service provider, any kind of consulting provider, is what you want is you want to identify a problem that it costs you a lot to not fix. So if I were to come into your business and you've got we'll do that $50 million business idea. If you go into a $50 million business, actually, there's a true story. And what we find is you are losing $1 million a quarter by estimating with the wrong data. And so this particular company was, they have a spreadsheet with all the, all your past quotes. And we've probably all done this. When you make a new quote for someone, you probably bring up the last time you had the spreadsheet, open it up, save as, and here's the new quote. Well, this company was doing that over and over again using data from the last time they did it, which was 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months ago. And guess what? Products change, pricing change, tariffs affected some of their stuff. And so you send out a quote, and all of a sudden now, instead of you're shooting for a 22% margin, all of a sudden you're underwater from day one. That's a big problem. So if we come into a company that's losing $1 million a quarter, in a way, $999,999 and under is a win. And so, and because once it's fixed, you get that million a quarter forever. Like once it's gone, right? And so really it's all about, can you find a problem worth fixing? And then you adjust, because sometimes it's the other way. Sometimes people bring us in and they're like, and this is usually because it's a minor inconvenience. This is usually when we get pushed back on price. Is they'll say, hey, you know what, Charlie, every day he's got to go through the system, and there's usually like 4 or 5 things he has to correct, and it's like he's got to spend like an hour fixing these things, right? And so we're like, okay, that'll be, I'm making up a number, that'll be $10,000 to fix. What? That's crazy, $10,000. And you're right, that is way too much to fix Charlie's 1 hour a day problem. You know what, Charlie, keep doing it manually forever because it costs you nothing. It's fine, right? Whereas we come in and we go, hey, look, you're it takes you 3 weeks to get invoices out because this data connection isn't right, and we can fix that for $10,000. Do it today, right? So it's really, for me, it's not so much about the cost of it as like, find a thing where you get. I mean, we shoot for a 5x return in the year that you invest. So if you're going to spend 10 with us, you should make 50 that year. Otherwise, don't do it. Just keep doing it the same old way. That's my rule of thumb.
Yeah, thanks for putting into words that I can understand like that. Yeah, we shoot for a 5 times return.
Yeah.
So that makes, because what we're really talking about then is value pricing, right? As opposed to like an hourly price. We're like, no, we're creating this much value for you for the long run.
Right.
And what you're saying is we want you to get that return within 12 months.
Yeah.
That's appealing, right? Sometimes pricing is hard for me, and I'm going to assume for other people to understand. But so thanks for articulating it like that.
I appreciate it. Well, because really, what we want everyone, because we're in a service business. And I tell people here that as much as we're a technology company, we're closer to a neighborhood bakery than we are to Microsoft. Like, you come in, you work with our people, you like our people, you recommend us, you come back again. Like, we are a service business, and so what we want is for people to have a great customer experience. And part of the customer experience is, does that feel like a great value, or did it feel like kind of nickel and dimed us, or like I lost money on that? So we definitely want you to like coming into the bakery.
Mike, this has been enlightening for me, and I hope for our listeners as well. For anybody who wants to reach out, start a conversation, get a quote, what's the best way to reach you?
Just our website, caxy.com.
Caxy.com.
Yeah.
Right on. This is Mike LaVista with Caxy. Thanks for being on our show today, Mike. And you all know now what it's time to do. It's time to get out there. Be a source of kindness. Be a source of contribution. You do have something to offer this world, and I believe in you.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.